They say mercy makes you noble, but in the wrong hands, it becomes the sharpest weapon your enemy will ever use against you. I open with this because today we're talking about mercy, about when it's good to hold back and when it's best to strike decisively. We're going to analyze one of the most controversial questions in humanity's playbook, mercy, why it can make you a hero or a fool, and here's a thought to let you chew on as we begin. To understand when it's okay to show mercy, you first have to understand how most people will respond to it. Spoiler alert, it's rarely gratitude. For any fans of the Netflix show Peaky Blinders, the origin story of its infamous villain, the Duke of Shelby, goes like this. Thomas Shelby was just a young lad when he and his ma were betrayed by a member of their gang, a man they had taken in and trusted. That man murdered their leader and set their house ablaze, killing their entire family except for Thomas and his sister. So when Thomas grows up and joins the Peaky Blinders gang, guess who he shows mercy to first? You guessed it, the man who killed his entire family, sparing him and his wife at gunpoint, despite having the chance to avenge his father and the rest of their kin. He says, there are some things more important than money, things a man would trade everything he owns in life to have back, and then he lets the killer go. Fast forward to the end of season 6, guess who comes crawling back to the now powerful Duke, seeking shelter and protection? Yep, the very same man. Now, granted, this is fiction, but this duality of mercy, the idea that giving someone another chance doesn't get you gratitude, but rather opens you up to ridicule and blackmail, that's something we've seen happen too many times in real life. You've probably had a business owner who took a compassionate approach towards employees during a recession, only to find those same people spreading rumors about them, or worse, once things got better. Or maybe you've been the compassionate one yourself, showing mercy to an opposing debater, only to watch them use your understanding as a sign of weakness to tear apart your argument. This is the problem with mercy. It's a gamble. The saying goes, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. But don't mistake kindness for weakness. Because while mercy may preserve life, it doesn't always plant seeds of gratitude. Sometimes it plants the seeds of your own downfall. So when is it okay to show mercy? Let's start with the obvious. Mercy is compassion, forgiveness, and restraint. It's a moral high ground that wins respect in stories and culture. But the question of when to show mercy is far from obvious. It's a nuanced decision, a judgment call. In 2TMT, on HNN, the world of the deadliest men in history, mercy is often a luxury only the strong can afford. But even then, it's a gamble. For example, Han Xin was one of China's greatest military strategists, famed for defeating armies that were twice his size. But for all his victories, there was one time when his mercy backfired spectacularly. After defeating the state of Shao, he received word that the deposed king had raised a new army and was marching on his capital. So Han Xin made a decisive move, leaving a token force to guard the city and taking most of his army out to intercept the king. This proved to be a massive mistake. While Han Xin was away, the Shao rebels seized the undefended capital, slaughtering its inhabitants. It was a disaster. And though Han Xin would later defeat the rebels and bring stability to the region, that initial loss was costly and could have been avoided. Now, why did Han Xin lose so badly? One simple reason. He underestimated his opponent. Han Xin made a crucial miscalculation in assuming that the ruler of Shao would simply surrender upon seeing his army. He failed to recognize that this ruler, King Qi, was desperate and cornered, willing to sacrifice his entire kingdom to take Xin's life. Xin's mercy, intended as a magnanimous gesture, ended up being exploited, turning into one of the greatest defeats of his career. So where does this leave us? Well, I am going to give you 3 rules for when it is okay to show mercy and when it's best to pull the trigger. Rule no 1. Your mercy doesn't make you a target. Some opponents will never respond to your mercy with anything but resentment. Why? Simple. They see restraint as weakness. People like this don't care about your reasons or values. They see you holding back and they re-emboldened because they know you woe and go all the way. Let me illustrate this with a historical example. During the French Revolution, when King Louis XVI was finally captured and brought before the Revolutionary Tribunal, there was a heated debate over his punishment. Some wanted to put him on trial for his crimes, while others, including the influential Maximilien Robespierre, favored immediate execution. However, the assembly ultimately decided on a compromise, sentencing the king to death by the sword instead of the more brutal guillotine. This was seen as a merciful decision, a concession that acknowledged the king's former status and attempted to grant him a more dignified death. But within weeks, Queen Marie Antoinette would suffer the same fate. and both her horrified screams and the public reaction to her death confirmed what they had feared all along, that mercy in this situation was nothing but a cruel joke. If the revolutionaries were going to kill the king anyway, why bother humiliating them with such a fake display of leniency? And that brings me to rule number 2. Mercy should bind the other side with an obligation they can't break. The key to strategic mercy is this: it shouldn't feel like a gift. The other side has to feel like they owe you something, like they're in debt to you, because then they'll think twice before trying to screw you over. Here's an example. Imagine you're playing a game of poker and you have the best hand, but your opponent pretends they have something better, bluffing to win the pot. Most players would simply fold and lose the hand, but a seasoned player knows when to call the bluff. They match the bet, forcing the other player to reveal their cards. If they don't, well, then the seasoned player wins the pot without risking too much. This is a form of mercy, but it's strategic. It doesn't come from compassion, but calculation. It's like putting a marker down. The other person may have bluffed this time, but the next time you see them playing with borrowed chips, you'll know they're in debt to you. Now, it's not always about material debts. Sometimes it's about image. Think of the celebrity who, after insulting you in the media, later crawls back, begging you for forgiveness, offering a public apology. Do you forgive them? Maybe not, but you might accept their apology and move on. By accepting the apology, you've forced them to take responsibility for their actions. Now, if they spread more rumors, then they're breaking the terms of their debt. They're creating a new conflict. Which brings me to rule no. 3. Mercy should strengthen your position. Mercy isn't about feelings, it's about calculation. The best way to think of it is like this: look at the big picture. Will letting this person go help you in the future? Or are you just making things worse? A wise man once said, "Don't be too forgiving." Not everyone deserves your explanation. When you exercise mercy, you should expect nothing in return. Your reward should be knowing that you held fast to your principles, but this doesn't mean you should be reckless with your mercy. Consider the consequences and potential benefits. Take, for example, the case of a troubled employee who constantly misses deadlines and makes mistakes. A merciful boss might overlook these issues, hoping the person will improve. But if there's no improvement and the mistakes cost the company dearly, then that mercy was misplaced. On the other hand, if the same employee is given a second chance, shows remorse, and signs a performance improvement plan, then that's an instance where mercy not only preserves talent, but also strengthens your position by getting the employee back on track. In the world of business, as in the world of war, it's not the strongest or the smartest who win, but the most adaptable. Showing mercy can be a powerful tool when wielded correctly. Just like a tamed lion, it can become the fiercest weapon in your arsenal. But like the saying goes, be wary of the scorpion's mercy, for it is as cold as death. I'll close with this: cruelty destroys instantly, but also creates martyrs. Controlled mercy is like taming a wild animal. Dangerous, but if done right, it becomes a powerful asset. As the great philosopher La Rochefoucauld wrote, "A sharp sword sheathed is still a sword." Mercy should be a choice, not a habit. If you want to learn more about calculated cruelty, and when it's the best course of action, then check out this video next. See you there.